There's a state of mind that makes hesitation physically impossible, and today you'll discover exactly how to reach it. Have you ever watched someone walk into a room full of strangers and speak without a flicker of doubt? While everyone else rehearses their words 100 times in their head, they just talk. While everyone else waits for the right moment that never comes, they move. And you know what people say about them? Man, nothing gets to that guy. There's an ancient state Japanese swordsman trained their entire lives to reach. They call it Mushin, the mind of no mind. And once you understand how it works, you'll never freeze again. But there's a catch. This state can't be faked, and reaching it requires you to destroy the voice in your head you've trusted your whole life. But before I show you how it works, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment on the moment you freeze up the most. This helps me a lot and shows me you're serious about changing. Let's go. Chapter 1. The Freeze. The story I'm about to tell you happened to a sales manager named Daniel. Smart guy, good with numbers, good with strategy, terrible with people, or more accurately, terrified of people. Daniel could build a pitch deck at midnight without blinking, but put him in front of a client and his mind turned into a courtroom. Every sentence got a trial before it left his mouth. Should I say this? What if they think I'm pushy? What if I stumble? What if they say no? By the time the verdict came back, the moment had already passed. His team called him the strategist, a polite way of saying he never closed anything himself. He always had a reason. Let me follow up next week. Let me prepare a better proposal. Let me think it over. His boss called him in one afternoon and said the words that changed everything. Daniel, you're the smartest guy on this floor, and you're going to get replaced by someone half as smart who just picks up the phone. Daniel went home that night and did what he always did when he felt attacked. He overthought it for 6 hours straight, but somewhere around hour 5, exhausted from thinking, he Googled something he never expected to Google: how to stop overthinking before you act. And that's how he found the samurai. Chapter 2. The Mind of No Mind. In feudal Japan, swordsmen trained for one single moment, the exchange of a single strike that decided who lived. There was no time to think, no time to plan the perfect response, no time to negotiate with fear. The masters called this state Mushin, literally, no mind. Not an empty head, not blankness. A mind so clear of hesitation that action happens instantly, without the delay of self-conscious thought. Here's what almost nobody understands about Mushin. It's not about not thinking, it's about not thinking about thinking. Every time you hesitate before speaking, before dialing, before walking into that room, you're not actually processing information. You're watching yourself process information. And that second layer, the self-watching, is what kills you. Zen master Takuan Soho explained it to a swordsman this way: the mind must be placed nowhere. If it stops on one thing, it will be captured there, and you will be cut down while your mind lingers. Daniel read that sentence and felt sick, because that was his entire life. His mind stopped on everything. Every glance from a client, every pause in conversation, every silence on the phone. He was being cut down daily, and the blade was his own thoughts. A neuroscientist at Yale who has studied performance under pressure for over a decade found something remarkable. When people hesitate before a familiar action, activity spikes in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-monitoring. The irony, the more that region activates trying to protect you, the worse you perform. Confidence isn't more thinking, it's less. Daniel didn't need a better script. He needed a quieter courtroom. Chapter 3. The First Cut. Daniel decided to test something absurd. Before every phone call, instead of preparing what to say, he would count backward from 3. And on 1, dial. No script review, no mental rehearsal. Just 3, 2, 1, dial. The first call, his hand actually shook. He forgot half of what he wanted to say. But he didn't hang up to regroup and try again later like he always had before. He kept talking, stumbling, and finishing the call. It felt like walking off a cliff blind. Old Daniel would have called that a disaster. New Daniel noticed something different. The client didn't hang up. The client didn't seem to notice the stumble at all. Only Daniel noticed it, because only Daniel had been in the courtroom. Day 3, same method. 3, 2, 1, dial. His mind screamed at him to prepare more, just one more minute to think it through. But he'd learned something about that voice already. It never actually wanted one more minute. It wanted infinite minutes. It wanted the call to never happen at all. So he stopped listening to what it wanted and did what Mushin demanded instead. Movement before deliberation. By day 7, the count itself started disappearing. 3, 2, dial. Some days just dial. His hand moved before the number finished. This is what monks spend decades chasing, and Daniel found a shadow of it in a week, because sales calls, it turns out, are just very small duels. Chapter 4, the watching mind. But Daniel discovered a second, harder problem. He could dial without hesitation now, but the moment someone answered, the courtroom reopened. Mid-sentence, a voice in his head would evaluate everything. Was that too aggressive? Did I sound nervous? Are they judging my tone right now? This is what Zen teachers call Zanshin's evil twin, the self-referential mind, watching itself perform instead of simply performing. A swordsman who thinks, "Am I doing this correctly?" while his opponent's blade is already moving, is already dead. Daniel realized the problem wasn't the moment before action. It was a second predator hiding inside the action itself. Taquan wrote about a monkey trapped in a burning house, running frantically from window to window instead of simply jumping out one of them. That monkey was Daniel mid-call, mentally sprinting between 15 possible interpretations of a 3-second pause on the other end of the line, instead of simply continuing to speak. His sales trainer, an older man named Marcus, who'd closed deals for 30 years without ever raising his voice, told him something strange. Stop trying to sound confident. Confidence is what happens when you're not checking. You're still checking. Daniel asked how you stop checking. Marcus said, "You don't stop the thought. You stop feeding it your attention. Let it walk by like a stranger on the street. Don't wave at it." Daniel began practicing this in real calls. The self-doubt would rise. You sound nervous. And instead of engaging it, arguing with it, agreeing with it, he simply let the sentence he was already saying keep moving forward. The thought passed by like traffic, unacknowledged, unanswered. Within 2 weeks, his call length increased. Not because he talked more, but because the pauses that used to be filled with internal panic were now filled with actual listening. Chapter 5, the public blade. Then came the real test. Daniel's boss announced he'd be presenting quarterly numbers to the entire regional office. 22 people, live, no recording, no do-overs. The old Daniel would have spent 3 weeks rehearsing in the mirror, rewriting slides at midnight, imagining every question and pre-drafting responses to catastrophes that would never occur. New Daniel had a decision to make. Prepare the content, yes, but hesitate before delivering it, no. He wrote the numbers down. He knew the material, he built it, but he refused to rehearse the delivery itself, because rehearsal, he now understood, wasn't practice. It was the courtroom in disguise, one more round of watching himself perform before he was allowed to actually perform. The morning of the presentation, his stomach turned. His hands were cold. The old signals hadn't disappeared. Mushin isn't the absence of fear. It's the absence of obedience to fear. He stood up. He didn't wait for the fear to leave the room first. He walked to the front, and on the count that had become instinct now, 3, 2, 1, he started talking. Halfway through, he lost his place for 2 full seconds. Old Daniel would have spiraled, apologized 3 times, and mentally exited his own body. New Daniel just looked down at the number, said it, and moved to the next slide. Nobody in the room noticed the gap. Only Daniel had been counting it. After the meeting, his boss pulled him aside. "Different guy up there today." What changed? Daniel almost explained about samurai and 13th century sword manuals and decided against it. He just said, "I stopped rehearsing the fear." Chapter 6, Fudoshin, the immovable mind. Weeks later, Daniel encountered a concept that explained everything that had happened without him fully realizing it. Fudoshin, the immovable mind, related to Mushin, but distinct. Where Mushin is the absence of hesitation in the moment of action, Fudoshin is the steadiness that lets you remain unshaken by outcomes before and after the action. Old Daniel's fear wasn't really about the phone call itself. It was about the verdict that followed it. What if they say no? What if the presentation flops? What if the client thinks less of me? Fudoshin doesn't mean you don't care about outcomes. It means the outcome doesn't shake your footing before you've even acted. Daniel tested this on his hardest call yet, a client who had rejected 3 previous proposals, each time citing something different, sending a clear signal there was no real interest, only politeness. Old Daniel would have dreaded this call for 2 days beforehand. New Daniel picked up the phone the way he'd pick up any phone, 3, 2, 1, dial. The client said no, again, directly, almost bluntly this time. And here's what surprised Daniel most. Nothing collapsed inside him. He said, "Understood," thanked them for their time, and hung up. No spiral. No replaying the conversation for the rest of the afternoon. No mental self-flagellation. The rejection existed. He simply wasn't standing where it landed. Chapter 7. The Transformation. 3 months into this practice, people at the office started noticing something they couldn't quite name. Daniel had always been smart. Now he was unreadable in the way that made people trust him more, not less. He closed the deal with the client who'd said no 3 times on the 4th call because he'd stopped calling from a place of desperate hope and started calling from a place that simply didn't flinch. His numbers that quarter put him first on the regional board, a position he'd never occupied in 6 years at the company. His girlfriend noticed it too. "You used to rehearse arguments with me in the shower," she said. "I could hear you muttering. You don't do that anymore." He hadn't noticed he'd stopped. That's the strange thing about Mushin. You don't announce your arrival there. You just notice one day that the courtroom in your head has gone quiet, and you're still standing, still speaking, still moving without ever putting the case up for trial. People who knew old Daniel started asking what changed, half joking that he'd gotten therapy, or found religion, or started microdosing something. He never fully explained it, because the honest answer, "I stopped watching myself think," sounds too small to account for what it actually did to his life. But that's exactly the point. Mushin was never about doing more. It was about removing the one thing standing between the thought and the action, the part of you that needed to approve of yourself first. When that approval step disappears, you don't become reckless. You become instant. And instant, when repeated daily for months, looks from the outside exactly like fearlessness. It isn't fearlessness. It's just a mind that finally stopped asking permission from itself. If this video helped you understand why you freeze in moments that matter, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And tell me in the comments, where do you freeze the most? On the phone? In meetings? In hard conversations? I read every single comment. In 2 weeks, I'll come back and ask who tried the 3-2-1 method and what it did for them. You don't need to eliminate the fear. You just need to stop asking it for permission. If you've watched this far, thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video.